you think about passports in cities, why would you bet your whole life on one place? Governments don't care about you. I don't care. There is not one country in the world where governments care about you. So you never want to bet too much on one place where you're going to find this magical utopian government. What you want, in my opinion, is a relatively benign government. My libertarian side is like, look, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And pick the one that treats you the best. From Nomad Capitalist live in Kuala Lumpur, where we've got every room in the house, we are joined by Mr. Tai Lopez. It's good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
Just got off the stage. I'm wondering, I see you online getting into arguments with socialists. You're here at Nomad Capitalist Live halfway around the world. Is this your admission that Tai Lopez is a free market, low tax capitalist?
My first mentor, Joel Salatin, was kind of like a father to me. He's libertarian. And I was a teenager, and so I think he's kind of the father of my unconscious mind on many things, including libertarian. So I would say I'm more libertarian, which correlates with what you're talking about. Free markets, taxes is a complicated subject to me, but libertarian, I think in general, you have this thing called SSGs, self-selected groups. So in a democracy, who are the type of people who become politicians? The way we've structured it is we don't attract the best and the brightest. In general, there's exceptions. So you create countries ruled by not the brightest and, let's say, the most low exploitative. A lot of exploitative traits are found in politicians. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. So when you create a world where countries are run by leaders who don't have the best interests of their own people at heart and are not the highest IQ people in the lot, because the high IQ people don't want to be president or prime minister, you end up with a lot of problems with big government. So big government ends up messing everything up. Look at California. I was born in, honestly, for geography, if you're just looking, forget governments, but climate, Southern California is one of the nicest places. I lived in LA and San Diego. I was born there and lived half of my life there, and just got ruined by bureaucrats.
If you can ruin that, that's a real accomplishment.
I'll never forgive I've become more libertarian after seeing what happened in California. The best fucking place on earth was ruined by the worst fucking group of bureaucrats. So I don't like bureaucracy because it's low IQ and not good for the people.
We were talking here at the course of this event. People are going to smaller countries.
Yes.
People mentioned Singapore nearby. They mentioned the UAE and Dubai.
Yes.
Those places, they actually put smart people in charge. You actually have to know finance to be the Minister of Finance.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think what we call second tier countries, I don't know if that's fair. You kind of got first tier, second tier, third tier, are on the rise. And first world countries, it's like Gibbon's book, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. Big empires always fall. The question is when, and the reason they fall is because they ignore the good things happening in smaller, medium, and smaller sized countries. So I think whether it's Malaysia, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, all these places, the BRICS countries are massively, if America's not careful, it's going to be outcompeted by just BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and other BRICS countries. So I think it's a big, what I believe is that I'm patriotic in a certain sense, and in another sense I don't care. But what I do say is I believe in the American spirit and the American dream. But the American dream is no longer only found in America. Because the American dream was an idea. In fact, the American dream was at first by people who lived in Europe and got on boats while they were on the boat, not yet in North America. They were exhibiting the traits of the North American dream, of the American dream, which is, I like how you say it, go where you're treated best. The way I always thought of it is go where is best.
Statistically.
Yeah.
And if you look at the U.S., I saw you talking recently about the sunk cost fallacy.
Right.
I'm wondering if a lot of people living in any country, United States, where we're from, just say, well, I'm here, might as well keep throwing good money after bad, as it were.
Yes, for sure. And then people genetically are tied to your family. Humans are very familial people. We come from hunter-gatherer tribes. So it's natural that if you're born in the U.S., look, the way I look at it, it's okay to keep roots where you were born. One of my mentors used to say, grow where you were planted. But I like, one of the things I like, your brand, Nomad. Humans are actually not sedentary people. It's a big mistake to think. So for 300,000 years of Homo sapien existence, roughly, only 15 to 25,000 were we agricultural, where we stayed in one place. So the vast majority of our genetic programming is to move, I call it the slow rotation. So I'm a huge fan of a slow rotation. So I have a United States place, and then I rotate I kind of follow the sun, actually. My grandma was an atheist, but she said, if I had any religion, I'd be an Egyptian, because they follow the sun. They worship the sun. And the day the sun dies out is the day this planet instantly disappears. Photosynthesis stops, food stops, heat stops. But so I go US, I go to Scandinavia, and I lived in Puerto Rico, did that for a while, and now I'm kind of spreading out. So I think a person should explore. I think you got to know your personality type. I'm a high dopamine person, so I'm okay with having 5 homes. There's people high in serotonin, 1 or 2. But I don't think people should have 1.
That's a common thing, is how do you have so many homes? Don't you get tired of traveling? I was just meeting a well-known friend of ours who said, if I'm not there for 4 months, I'm not interested. And for me, sometimes, you go for a month, you get what you need, and you go back somewhere else.
Yes. Well, you're like me. We're higher dopamine people. Dopamine regulates new experience, interest in new experience. High serotonin people like to build one place. But what I'm saying is, even if you're a builder, serotonin person, don't have one home. Like Sigmund Freud, he wrote a book called Civilization is Discontents, the great founder of modern psychology. And he was talking about happiness, but he was talking about how you find happiness. And he kind of listed out 8 ways humans find happiness. And at the end, he was answering the question, well, which one of them is the best? And he says, well, as a wise businessman often does, you should diversify your forms of happiness. At the same vein, as a wise businessman does, who diversifies his businesses, you should diversify your homes. So even if you are a type that doesn't like to be like us and have 5 homes, you could spend 6 months in one place, 6 months in another. That's not too much travel. I like to get one place in a colder climate. The summers in colder climates far from the equator, I'm talking higher than 37th latitude if in your North America. So that's kind of, the Nordics, or you could do Estonia type places. I like those in June, July, August, September maybe. And then I like to go closer to the equator when I'm chasing the sun, when it's more wintertime. So I like Brazil. I think Argentina is interesting, Colombia. Been to all these places. But you got to test them for yourself. But I don't, why would you have 1?
Even if you just keep 1 in your back pocket, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the vacation.
For sure.
But you could always ramp it up if you need to.
Exactly.
Question for you, because you got started as this wide market internet entrepreneur, lots of customers. Mm-hmm. I think the advantage that I have at Nomad Capitalist is that people know what I stand for, and that's what makes them interested.
Yes.
For someone like yourself, what's your advice to other mass market businesses? Do you want to talk about the fact that you have multiple passports, or you're trying to lower your taxes, or does that turn off too much of the market?
You know what? I find in general, people find it interesting, even a mass market of living globally. I don't get much pushback. Taxes is such a complicated thing. It's hard to even talk about, because if you're an American citizen, taxes is so complex in the sense of, especially if you have a lot of businesses. So I don't talk as much about taxes simply because, in general, you don't want to be giving out tax advice in America if you're not a CPA. But I do like to talk about libertarian concepts. And I'm not, to be clear, by the way, I'm not 100% libertarian. I think like Charlie Munger, the billionaire partner, Warren Buffett says, avoid extreme ideologies. So I think it is possible to be kind of insane. You're off the optimal frontier of libertarianism, but maybe anarchy. My mom is really into anarchy. My mom she's a hippie. She changes all the time. So she argues with me on this. But anarchy, they've tried. I remember Canada, I read it in the 1960s or something, there was a police force worldwide strike in all of Canada, and guess what happened? Crime went up the next day. So, do you want complete libertarianism? No, but I find the mass market, they like these concepts. At least my mass market does.
I'm not saying you've done this because I think you're still a U.S. citizen, but if you went out and said, I've reduced my tax to zero, would that impact people who are buying your stuff? Would people say, oh, this is an outrage?
Probably not. I mean, remember Donald Trump arguing with Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton goes, well, have you used the tax code to lower your taxes? What does that say about you? And he goes, it says that I'm smart. And he won the presidency. So I think, look, the cool thing about America, for all the bad things people say about America, the one cool thing about America, it's more open-minded than you think, at least conversationally, You
think it's as much as it used to be? Or are people getting more at each other's throats?
More at each other's throats. But you know what it is? It's the vocal minority. The average American you talk to, but yeah, you go on Twitter and you get the whack jobs. I mean, most people, sane people don't argue on social media. So yes, America is becoming more fractionalized when you look at social media. But when you go on the streets, America, by the way, is somewhat open. I mean, I live in Scandinavia. That's a more socialist country. And America is not as socialist as you think, even in big cities. Not to the extent that, let's say, a Sweden or Denmark is. Those are vastly different. So I think America, I don't think it would turn off people.
Do you think Trump is going to win again in 2024?
I watch the Vegas odds. I don't listen to people. I watch how they bet their money. Vegas, he's been bumping up much higher. I think he's in second place last time I checked Vegas odds. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he won or lost. I know that maybe sounds like a chicken shit answer, but I think it's literally like you're walking on a cliff that's very narrow. And I wouldn't be surprised if you made it to the other side, but if you fell off, I could also see it happening. Like a swinging bridge on a 5,000-foot tall Mount Andean, Chilean Andes mountain. You say, oh, is that guy going to make it to the other side? I'd be like, if he makes it across, I could see that happening. All he's got to do is walk carefully. Yeah. But if he fucking stumbles and falls off, I ain't going to be surprised. I'm going to be like, oh my God. So Trump is one of those, because he's got all these indictments, I think it is literally the epitome of could go either way. But I predicted, I watched Twitter comments, and in the year he was running, say 6 months before the election, I knew he was going to win because Hillary Clinton would get 12,000 likes, and Trump was getting 200,000. That's the mass democracy. People voting on with likes is like a vote. People don't like Biden. It's clear. This guy gets the least amount of likes of any president I've ever seen on social media. So I'm not looking at it politically. I'm looking at it as a social media. I've got 8 million social media followers. I watch patterns. Trump is very strong. What they're trying to do against Trump, many ways, is backfired. America likes an underdog, and America doesn't like a bullied. America's interesting with government. 50% of America really hates big government. And so them coming after him, for sure, whatever voters he's lost, he's gained them back. But it's uncharted territory. I mean, there's never been a president with this many, any indictments running. So I don't even know if they can disqualify him.
All these Americans who don't like big government should go somewhere where there's not a big government.
Yes, but America's also, so if you look at personality types and chemicals, AKA hormones, America's high dopamine, which means open to new ideas, but also high narcissism. America's the land of narcissists, and I say that as an American. You can even see this, Dr. David Buss did extensive studies. High testosterone, people migrate more. He did studies off the coast of Italy and Greece. People who migrate to the mainland, immigrants are higher in traits like testosterone, which are often correlated with things like narcissism. So America is a country that's both open to new ideas, but if you say, where the fuck is Malaysia? America's narcissistic, and we only care about our own 50 states. So remember, humans are simple yet complicated at the same time. So when I look at meta hormonal personality types of countries, America is a mix. So America is at once a place where if I say, hey, I'm living in 3 places, very few Americans are like, wow, you're a horrible person. If you're in Sweden,
Really?
which is high serotonin, more conservative people, if you say, oh, I'm living in Dubai, they're more suspicious. They even have a word called jantelon or jantelagen, which means don't try to do anything crazy. It's an actual Scandi word. So America is a weird place to try to read. But so I think the reason Americans don't move is because of that inherent assumption that America's best. It's kind of a narcissistic assumption.
You like Sweden, you like the Nordics. We've talked here about there are countries in Europe that have high taxes,
Yes.
but you can get an exemption if you're a foreigner. Sweden's not one of them. So we know you're not going there for low taxes. What is it about the Nordics that you like? Because I think you said Sweden was more capitalist than people think.
Oh yeah, well, if you look online, you can see billionaires per capita. Sweden has 5 times the billionaires per capita of the United States. Okay, now it's a little bit different wealth, but it's very entrepreneurial. Spotify comes out of there. Stockholm's very capitalistic in a certain sense, more so than Copenhagen and Oslo, where I've lived. I like Scandinavia for other reasons. I think it's unrelated to monetary reasons. My grandma's German, and my dad went to prison when I was born, and so I was raised by my German grandmother, and I think we're driven by our unconscious mind and also our genes. I get along, even in America, I lived with the Amish for 2.5 years, which are basically a German group of people, and Scandis in German, I mean, they speak a Germanic language, it's very Northern European. So I feel at home in Northern Europe, and it may be part of my psyche from my grandma, you know, being raised by a very German grandma.
Because it's more functional there?
It's even little things. I think we're driven by very surprising things. The furniture, it's funny. I always felt at home at my grandma's. She died when she was 102, sadly. But I remember I could go to my grandma's house and she had this couch. Her house looked very European in San Diego. And it's the one place I could always fall asleep. Even as a busy businessman, you know, you feel at home with your grandma. And when she died, I looked at the couch she had, and I was like, I want to buy one of these. And she had bought it from a Danish furniture store. So I think even we humans always think about our conscious mind. You have to understand your unconscious, that simple cues that remind you of the most loving person you ever met will play a strong correlation with where you want to live. So I think Scandinavia reminds me of my grandma, and the Amish a little bit. Yet, you know, I also like, look, Scandinavia, I talk a lot about thin and thick markets. It's an economic term. And I'm a single guy. I like beautiful women. And Scandinavia is a very thick market of very beautiful women. In fact, a lot of the famous model agencies like Elite Models, John Casablanca, suddenly built, there was 2 other model agencies in the 50s, 60s, 70s. There was Wilhelmina and Ford. And all of a sudden this guy, John Casablanca out of France, just dominated with Elite Models. And years later, they asked him why. He died recently. He said, oh, I would just fly to Stockholm and pick a new supermodel in a week off the streets, 2 or 3. So it's they have very, and it's also, people have different opinions. I have a friend who only likes Latin women, another one likes Asian. So I like that, but I also find Scandinavian women are beautiful and smart. And yet don't find that everywhere, no offense. Probably the same with men, but I don't date men. And so women are, you know, I like a country that's a thick market, meaning there's a lot of choice of women who are beautiful and intelligent. If you want to have kids, I think that's important. And it's pretty emotionally stable country. I think when you look around the world, like Malaysia strikes me as a relatively emotionally stable, happy people.
Happy people.
That's important.
Kind people.
Yeah, that's important. So I would add to your, you know, go where you're treated best, but also go where people are jolly. I asked one of my mentors, who's an evolutionary psychologist, one of the founders at Harvard, and you know, a correlation between people you think of as jolly, kind of like Santa Claus. I see that in Brazil, the Philippines, Kuala Lumpur kind of this is the first time there. I think it's super important to not just optimize for money, but money is important. I have the 4 pillars of the good life: health, wealth, love, happiness. So whenever I assess anywhere, I go, one thing I like about Scandinavia, it's the highest group of people or the highest correlated group with fitness. So you live in Scandinavia, all my friends come from America, they lose weight, everybody walks, not a lot of cars, everybody goes to the gym, the food's tremendously healthy. So I like that for the health pillar of the good life. Scandinavia is good, but I think you can find that in many places. Brazilians are pretty healthy. I was just in Sao Paulo. Wealth, I think you got to be careful. There's countries that are not good for the wealth pillar. Now, I don't stand.
What makes a country bad for the wealth pillar?
Well, taxes can destroy you.
Right.
Bad opportunities for networking. So I think there's countries where there's thin markets, not many entrepreneurs. So Scandinavia is not a place I would want to live 12 months out of the year.
Is that because you think the entrepreneurship part of you would not be nurtured?
Yeah, but also, I mean, you got high taxes, so I would not want to have all my businesses in Scandinavia.
A good book for you, The Geography of Bliss.
Yes, I've read that. It's a good book.
Yeah.
I love those geographies.
Malaysia not mentioned, but the Philippines was mentioned. Others were mentioned.
Yeah, Philippines is very jolly.
Talk about, you have a question that I think plays into what we talk about is where should you live?
Yes.
What motivated that?
Well, like I said, I'm dopamine driven, so I love places. I got that from my grandma. She was dopamine driven. So I think it's part of my genes. But are you asking a specific place?
I feel like Jeff Bezos perhaps inspired you. There was something about
Jeff Bezos, very smart guy, logical. He structured. Now he was very focused on the wealth pillar, and he did a math. He did the math. Where's the most nonstop airports? Where can I hire from my competition? Microsoft was in Seattle, Washington, low tax state. He doesn't mention that, but that obviously played in his mind. So he could cut out, if you live in California, you go up to 13.5% tax. You make $100 million, you save a lot, especially if it's on a cash flow, ordinary income basis in the U.S. Being in Seattle saved him and Bill Gates and Ballmer all this money. So Bezos was what I like about Bezos is he was very unemotional about setting up a base.
where he wanted to start his company and live. Yeah.
Correct. And I think that is, for anybody watching, I went through your paid advanced program, which was good, gave me a lot of insight. We did that, I think in 2020, years ago.
Twice?
Yeah. And I think, so when you do, for those of you doing Andrew's plan or doing your own plan or however you're doing it, you need to think through it like a chess master. My grandpa, my family's a big chess family, and when you're playing chess, you're looking at the moves from many angles. Game theory is one of the most complex. If you ever watched that Beautiful Mind about the Nobel Prize winner Nash, he was working on game theory. And so you can don't play checkers when you decide where to live. Play chess. So for me, it's not like, oh, I like Swedes because they're blonde. Like that would not be enough. That would be playing checkers. And so for me, my evaluation is more complex because I'm not like Jeff Bezos and only select for money. He's more interested in money. That's also genetic. Some people love money. I like money. People think I'm, of the 4 M's of motivation, I call it, money, mating, mastery, and movement. Money is actually my low, material things. I don't wear jewelry. I don't care that much. I do like nice houses and cars, but I don't care about brand names that much, clothing or things. So for me, I would not optimize my life as much as other people watching. If you know yourself and you really love money, you should really optimize.
Where would you go for that?
If somebody loves money and you're an American citizen and you project you'll have appreciation, a lot of those people are getting rid of their passport. And they're doing it before their assets appreciate. The people that I know that have renounced their citizens, I have entrepreneur friends. I haven't done that, but they're doing it before assets appreciate because of the exit tax. Then you're going into a low tax jurisdiction and spreading out. I think spreading out is good. Even if your goal is money, governments change too much, and so spreading out into 1 or 2, tax-free or low-tax jurisdictions, whether it's Ireland, Dubai, the ones that you talk about, I think can make sense. But yeah, my friends who really love money, I have a student who's going to be probably one of my first billionaire students, started doing my courses in 2017. Now he's a money-making machine, and it's very important to him. He loves money. He's low tax to no tax only.
What motivates someone to love money, do you think?
I think it's genetic. In our genes, people who truly love money, in my experience, like to collect things. Remember, money as we know it is relatively new. The Roman Empire had coins, but they paid people in salt. The real paper money came from Sweden in the 1500s. So in our genetic predispositions, There were people who collected things. Native Americans some of them collected scalps, and they collected feathers, and they collected wampum, which is like a seashell. And you see that around the world. You see tribes, pre-industrial tribes, that there's just people who love to collect. To me, that's a genetic predisposition for collecting, hoarding resources. Genghis Khan was one of those people, and he's the great-grandfather of 1% of Asia or something like this. So I think some of it's genetic and some environmental. Obviously, I like money more than most, but on a 1 to 100 scale, I'm not. I know people that are 100. I'm probably a 60, 70. I like money for freedom. I'm very movement freedom dominated. So to me, I will optimize for money as long as it doesn't completely fuck my freedom.
As Robert Kiyosaki says, you buy back your time, you buy more freedom.
Yes. But I'm saying I wouldn't just go, like, for example, I don't like, if it was me, I would not, if I had a choice between a low tax jurisdiction, let's say I was born in another country. It's harder for American citizens. But let's say I wasn't American citizen. I was German or something. With my personality type, I would do probably, if I had to be in Dubai 6 months out of the year to get 0 taxes, or I could be Ireland for 10% corporate tax, but I don't have to spend 6 months in Ireland, I'd pick Ireland. I'd rather pay a little more tax to have my freedom. But I told you, one of my students that I mentor, that guy's like, where's 0? You don't want to give up.
We've talked. Yeah, some people are like, if you're going from 50 to 10, that's still a win.
Yeah.
It's hard to go from 0 to 10.
Yes.
If you get just the right lifestyle, I'll spend more if I spend some time in Ireland. But by the way, very perhaps polar opposites. I mean, Dublin, if you're the guy wearing Gucci shoes, like what's up?
Yes.
Very humble. I'm from the Midwest U.S. Dubai, obviously, you go to the Starbucks,
Yes.
everyone's wearing Gucci
Yes.
shoes.
Yeah, and Middle East loves. Sometimes I have a base in London too, and it's like sometimes I walk around, I'm like, how many brand fashion labels can one human body have? It's like I got this. It's like a ring, the watch, the Gucci, the sweatpants, the bag.
Oh, the sweatpants.
Scandinavia.
Oh.
I like Scandinavia as like Janteloen. I go there. I don't have any Lamborghinis. If you have a Lamborghini and Ferrari in Copenhagen, you're considered a total douchebag. So I have cool cars. I've had in America, Ferraris and Lambos and Rolls Royce, but there I walk. That's cool.
Do people ever see you walking and be like, what's going on?
No.
The Lambo breakdown?
Oh, no. I have a lot of followers in Scandinavia, but they're shy, humble, nice people.
Humility is an important trait. I think kindness and
Yes.
humility are probably underrated in
they shouldn't,
most
you're
parts of the
right.
world. They shouldn't be.
That's what I said. Like Malaysia, if you find jolly people, Philippines, I think Brazilians, they did a new meta study on like 40 countries, levels of mental stability. The most mentally stable place in the world was Brazil. And so they didn't study Malaysia, but you probably, look, one place to know mental stability is family staying together. So anytime you find like Philippines, people are very family oriented, large groups, they tend to be lower on exploitative traits. Big cities attract more exploitative people. So you're going to find more exploitative people in New York City, in London, in large Dubai. That's just the nature of immigration. People move who are lower sentimentality, lower emotional dependence, move to big cities to make their fortune. So if you're optimizing for happier people, you definitely want to optimize around these countries that prioritize family.
I think great experience here in Malaysia. I don't know your thoughts on Malaysia. We've done these events in Mexico in the past, and Mexicans are fantastic.
Yeah.
This is a level above, I think. I don't know what your thoughts on Malaysia.
Yeah, I've only been here a week.
Efficient, even being fast. I really think it's been a cut above. You've been here for a week.
Yeah, it's Asia is maybe a little more on time than Latin America. I can say that as a Lopez. Yeah, I think Latin America, like I said, I think the simplest answer is to pick a couple places because it's very hard to find everything you want in one place. It's just like friends. A wise person would not tell their son or daughter to have one best friend. Every best friend brings different things to the table. I have a best friend, Joe, one of my friends from San Diego. Been friends. I've always known him from the 2 years old we met. He was older than me, and I was 2. And I never remember not being alive without him as a friend. He has a certain personality type. He's very down to earth. He likes to stay in one place. He's more of a builder, serotonin person. He's always lived in San Diego. I have another friend, Jeremy, same thing. We met 2 or 3. And he's a digital nomad. He knows you. In fact, the podcast I did with you was from his house. He's lived around the world. And so I have friends. We're all better off because all 3 of us are friends. And so when you think about passports in cities, why would you bet your whole life on one place? Governments don't care about you. I don't care. There is not one country in the world where governments care about you. Why would they? Why would government, why would everybody in this world, humans are built, there's a thing called Dunbar's number, 150 people. We evolved in tribes of 150. Robin Dunbar is a famous sociologist, anthropologist. So humans care about their 150 tribe. So any place you go in the world, from the United States to even Malaysia, Brazil, Argentina, the politicians care about themselves and their family and their tribe. So you never want to bet too much on one place where you're going to find this magical utopian government. What you want, in my opinion, is a relatively benign government, because all governments do share exploitative traits. I'm sure, I don't know Malaysia well, but I'm sure there's levels of graft and corruption here, just like there is in the United States and there is in every country in the world. So my libertarian side is like, look, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And pick the one that treats you the best.
Yeah.
A little bit different experience being
Correct.
a foreigner, being part-time. That's why we talk about second passports. I think
Yes.
we're on board with that. Financial fundamentals, I've seen you talking about this, getting people's financial fundamentals
Yes.
right. Let's apply that, since we're here at Nomad Capitalist Live, to other countries.
Yes.
Where does the U.S. rank compared to others in terms of having the fundamentals right?
Well, America, the pros and the cons. America's still entrepreneurial in the sense that when I tell people I dropped out of college and I started an online business, no one looks down on you. Whereas in some parts of Europe, they're still more traditional, and it's, I get people who are absolute dipshits, but they get respect because they have some business MBA. I'm like, you know nothing. You never made $1 million.
Charlie Munger says avoid those people also,
Yeah.
right? The MBAs.
Yeah. Yes, exactly, or the PhDs. My mentor used to call them post-hole diggers. But I think that, America, the cons of America, as I said, it's relatively closed-minded to global travel in life, in the sense that people won't hate you, but Americans are very oblivious. If I go to a shopping center in downtown Los Angeles or Chicago, and I say, I'm going to Malaysia, here's a map with no words on it, point out where I'm going, you're going to have a 1 to 100 ratio. And if I say I'm going to Kuala Lumpur, forget about it. You could sit at that mall for 8 hours and ask Americans, where's Kuala Lumpur? Where am I flying? Nobody's going to know. So that's the downside of America. It's open-minded within its borders, but in general, it doesn't have antipathy to other countries. It's just like, I don't know what you're talking about, Malaysia.
I was going to the Nordics. This is a long, long time ago. But I'm flying through Newark, and the woman next to me says, "Oh, where are you going next?" I said, "Oslo." And she's like, "That's the one in Pennsylvania, right?"
Yes.
So you're saying open-minded for not going to school,
Yes.
doing new stuff, being weird,
Yes.
but closed-minded
Yes.
towards outside the borders.
Absolutely.
And why is
I
it-
would say oblivious.
Right.
It's a big country.
Because they're allowed to be, or what?
Well, also, look, any big country, you can live in the United States and drive 15 hours and be in the same country. You can get on an airplane from LA to New York, 5 hours later, you're still in the same country. If you get on an airplane in Oslo, Norway, and fly 5 hours, you're almost in Dubai.
Yeah.
You've gone across 10 countries in 2 continents. So just by the nature, we're also victims of our geography. Any person, I see this in Brazil. So Brazil's a massive landmass. It's a huge country by geographical board. A lot of Brazilians never have a passport and speak 0 English.
It does seem that way.
Yeah, it's because big. Russia, the same way. You go in the heart of Russia, many people have never left the boundaries of Russia, motherland, and they don't speak English. But if you go to Luxembourg, minute countries in Europe, or if you go to some, smaller countries, let's say, Costa Rica, there's very few people that haven't been to the border and don't speak another language in Luxembourg. So I think part of it's just explained by geography, that it makes America oblivious.
So the best thing for your children is to raise them in Liechtenstein,
Probably.
to give them that international exposure.
Or have 2 or 3 homes.
In
I think
good
have 3
different
homes.
places.
People often ask, it's like kids. Kids are not going to be better off by being sedentary. There's no math and no science that shows living a nomadic lifestyle is worse for kids. Now, if you're switching every week, that's an extreme. That's probably not healthy for children. And if you homeschool, which I recommend, how the hell are you going to put kids in any school now where there's online porn on phone? My friend stuck his 5-year-old kid, 6-year-old kid in public school, and some kid was showing him porn at 6.
Did you see this? What they did in some town in Ireland, in County Wicklow, not just south of Dublin, upscale seaside town. The parents all got together and said, "We're not getting our kids phones until
That's a
like
great thing.
13 or something."
Yeah, or 18. It's like if you could. I mean, phones is going to be the dark side of the world. Phone is an example of where libertarian doesn't work. It's too free. You need to become a little more communist with the phone with children,
But that's their tribe, I suppose, right?
Yes.
They're a small enough
Yes.
town. They're like, all right,
Yes.
listen, we're going to get together. We have
That's what
shared
Joel
values.
Salatin, libertarian, would say. He's like, exactly, the town should make the rules.
Free market, the smallest
Small.
group possible.
Exactly.
Well, all the more reason that every country should be Liechtenstein, should it
Yes.
not? Why do we have such big countries that are so distant from the people?
Legacy mistakes. 1,000 years from now, or less, maybe 50 years, you're going to start having much more city-states.
So have the kids, travel with the kids, homeschool the kids,
Yes.
give them different experiences.
For sure. IQ, one of things, there's like 6 things that can raise your IQ. Sleeping more, certain foods, playing chess, but learning languages. Tremendous correlation.
Get the tutor that speaks the foreign language.
Yeah, but
Start
also
them off early.
live. Kids
Yeah.
learn from peers. Even though homeschool is good, you still want I would put kids in sports so they can still you don't want the kids only with the parents all the time, but you live in whatever country and they go play with the natives speaking kids. They learn that language with perfect accent. Yeah, learning 3 languages for everybody should. I know 2, and I wish I knew 4 languages. I kind of know 3, but.
And I think what people in the U.S. may not know, I'm not sure how it works in Sweden, but a lot of the places that I've been, things are just more informal still.
Yes.
So there's just kids out playing.
Yeah.
It's not some formal league, and if you're not
Yes.
at school, and it's just go play.
Yeah, America, I'll tell you another problem in America. The rise of litigation will be, in fact, if you look at the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, too many damn lawyers. They had tremendous litigation. People don't realize the Roman Empire had people suing each other. America has 4% of the population and over 85% of the lawsuits. This is bad. And California alone has 300,000 lawyers. They need work. I remember driving down LA, there's a billboard. If you're Filipino and you were fired, call us. So now they're specializing in suing employers. So guess what everyone in California does? Elon Musk moves his company out of California. You can't, now I'm not saying employers are always fair to their employees, of course not. But having 300,000 lawyers chase, oh, you're Filipino? Let's sue it's going to move all the businesses out. So what's going to happen? I heard you talk about this earlier. It was a smart thing you said from stage there with the crowd. Politicians forget people are going to move. France tried to pass this wealth tax where we're just going to give you a flat tax on your net worth, even non-realized gains. And like 10% of millionaires moved across the border to Belgium like in a year. And they're like, oh, you're going to lose all the smart people.
Great low tax Belgium, and that's how bad it was, right? It's like we'll go and pay there
Or Luxembourg,
53
or
rather than
Yes.
But
Taxing non-liquid net worth is insanity.
I think I'm upset than a lot of people. More upset over bad employers. We've had a couple of people work here, former bosses. That pisses me off. But I would imagine there's a lot more good employers than the average person thinks, and those people, they're going to go where they're treated best.
Yes.
Even if people don't understand that they're good. It's just like we said with the countries.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's in Indonesia and they've been, kind of beaten up on. Well, now they're powerful enough to stand up.
Yeah.
They're just going to do what's best for them.
Yes.
We should all take that, don't you think? We should
Yes.
all, what's best for
Yeah.
the individual, and that
Yes.
spills over.
I read recently, everybody should reread the classics. I read Adam Smith. Wealth of Nations, the classic capitalistic text. I also, by the way, think you should read. I read the week before I read Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. You should read both sides. I'm not a communist, but a smart person reads both sides so you can be informed. And by the way, Karl Marx was there's a lot of lessons, not about why you should be communist, but how to be a persuasive writer. Karl Marx was a very powerful writer. He got it wrong because he didn't understand modern evolutionary psychology, which supports what you're saying, which is groups. So here's where science has gone. Wealth of Nations is kind of similar timeline to Karl Marx. I believe Wealth of Nations was written before Communist Manifesto, but I forget the exact timing. Wealth of Nations said capitalism, aka the invisible hand, each man pursuing his own selfish interest, is best for the group. Okay, then you have the rise, industrial age, depending on your math, is 1700s, rise of steam power, things like this. So then you have these factories where basically factory workers, owners exploited workers. You'll see imagery in the 1800s even of 4-year-old kids having to work in factories, okay? But here's what was different. You couldn't move, okay? So Karl Marx came in and said the solution, his famous line was, "Workers of the world unite." I think that's how he said it in Communist Manifesto. And what he was saying is the best solution there is to create a centralized government, aka later on the Soviet in Russia, and that would protect the proletariat from the bourgeois, the common man from the factory owner. But now the factory owner doesn't have the power because the employee, even in other countries, starts to have the ability to migrate. Nobody was migrating in the 1800s. There's no airplanes. No Malaysian worker who was treated poorly or Irish worker could say, "Oh, I'm getting on a plane to move to another country." Zero. There was almost zero migration, especially far distances. There were some by boats, but not much. Now, the factory worker has to treat people better because of mobility. So the Karl Marx system didn't actually protect the common man, and you see that through Soviet history, Chinese history, Cambodian history. It didn't work right. So now the actual solution has come to play, which is give every man and woman mobility, and you'll naturally solve the problem. A bad employer, people will just freelance, go on Upwork, and find another job. And I have Filipino people working for me. If you treat them badly and you're paying them a good wage in Philippines, they go back up on Upwork. So the real solution is empower mobility and then get bureaucrats out of it.
Tai Lopez, this is the Libertarian Capitalist part people have never seen. Glad to have you here in Kuala Lumpur.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you bringing me.